folks, Mike here. I just got a Luxe in the mail from Charles, and Charles sent me, he just got this Luxe, either he bought it or on trade, I don't remember, but sent it to me because he wanted me to take a look at it and go over it, make sure it's doing good. I just unboxed it from the package here, and already just kind of saw an issue that I thought would be a good idea in another troubleshooting video to sit here and kind of work through it together. Charles had a pretty interesting idea. He had this contact paper, you know, on the sides of his Luxe and the top to help protect the sides. I thought that was a pretty smart idea. So, see something new all the time, and I got to give him kudos to that if you want to keep your marker in a nice clean shape. But anyways, so we'll go in. I'll show you my Luxe here, and what I want to pay attention to, those of you that aren't that familiar with the eyes and so forth, is right now the marker's not aired up, so the bolt is forward. It's blocking the eyes, and as you see, the eye light is blinking blue that there's something in the breech. Typically it'd be a ball, you know, if you had your hopper on and everything. And when we air the marker up, that light will go steady blue, telling you that the breech is empty. So, steady blue, breech is empty, blinking light, ball in chamber. So, if the eyes are working correctly, it shouldn't fire a ball, and with something in the breech, then it will. So, blinking, not blinking, eyes are working.
Battery level 75%. Firing mode semi-automatic.
Alright. So bolts forward, eyes are blinking, indicating there's something in the breech. And that's the first thing I noticed. When I aired it up, it's still blinking. That tells me that the eyes, there might be a problem with the eyes. And I know if I pull this trigger, it's going to fire. So, that's not good. It shouldn't be firing right now. So, first thing I'm going to do to check it is I'm going to pull the eye covers off and make sure and see if there's any obstruction or any goop or something on the eyes, to see if something's blocking the eye, giving it the appearance electronically that there's something in the way. So I don't see any obstructions in the breech. And there's some goop and stuff in there. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to carefully pull the eye out. Inspect it. Wipe the eye off. There's some crud in here, like an old shell to a ball. So I want to clear that out. Finally. Handy dandy toothbrush. Get those pieces of crud out of there. Set that puppy back into place. Now, right off the bat, I set this guy back in there, and then I look right here at the front, and I can see that there's a gap in between this eye and from it properly sitting in there. Now, when I placed it in there, it felt like it went in properly, but I've had problems in the past where I thought it was in there, and I was still getting an eye malfunction, and all it was the eye was not properly seated. I'm not saying this may not be the case. The eye itself, somewhere in the wire, may be bad. However, in going through the process to find out exactly, trying to pinpoint the problem, I want to make sure that this thing sits all the way down in there. And if it doesn't for some reason, you want to pull it back out and check for some more obstructions. So it feels like it's sitting back in there properly. I want to check the spring, make sure the spring, is not crunched down or missing. Take this time to test the eye detent. Make sure it's not squared off. Pop that back in there, and then always give it a push to make sure it's not going to pop back open. There's a lot of goop in here. It's like little pieces of shell and stuff in here. And the next thing I want to check real quick, I want to make sure the eye is plugged in. It looks like it's plugged in. Now that to me right there doesn't seem right. It seems really chunky. It's not very smooth. So there might be some O-ring problems in this engine right away. I mean that should pop back out all the way like that. But before we start that, let's see where we're at. And as you're putting the engine back in, there's this little arch, at the top. You gotta be careful that you don't just jam the engine in there and pinch the O-ring in the top. So I always start walking it through. Of course, make sure you lift the latch before you ride it all the way home so you don't get the idiot mark. And these last O-rings always seem to be the culprits. Especially this last one. In the newer engines, this is a urethane O-ring, so it's not such an issue, but some of the older engines are And I always rest it forward and then I pull back a little bit just so you don't get chipping, you know, from the ano when you put the bolt latch back. So.
Powering on. Welcome to the Luxe experience. Battery level 75%. Firing mode semi-automatic.
So there we go. That was an easy fix. It was just something was in the way of the eyes, some goop, a piece of ball. Maybe they weren't sitting in there right and aligned. So right there we just solved an eye problem, or what would resemble an eye problem. But now that's working good, so now we can start checking the engine. I already let the air out, and the bolt's still all the way back.
Vision off. Powering on.
See? That's not right. A lot of caked on lube. And I can already tell there should be an HBNR O-ring in this third O-ring spot, and there's a urethane in there. So I'm going to check the spring also. The spring looks good. Doesn't look to be bent or kinked. Notice there's a black button O-ring here. I'm not saying you can't use black button O-rings, but I find the sizes are a little more inconsistent, and you gotta play with a couple of them before you find the right size. So I generally like to stick with the urethanes in the 2.0 engine. So I'm going to take off this this bunna. Wipe this goop off. Clean out the O-ring channel. I'm going to clean this O-ring too. And if I'm not replacing them, I like to feel them, to feel for any nicks or scrapes. That one actually feels pretty decent. I like to pre-lube my O-rings. Some people have asked for like a lubing video, so all I do is get it on my finger and then just kind of smear it, and then I run my finger over until there's a nice even coat like that. These 13 O-rings feel pretty decent, but while we're checking, I'm just going to clean the channels out. Wipe off this excess goop. I'm going to check the fitment on this rear O-ring. I just get a nice little coat of lube right here on the back. And I also use this lube to kind of see how the O-ring is. On some of them, like, I don't know if you can see with the camera, but when I push this down, it very evenly pushed all the lube up. And as I look around it, I can see a nice even layer where all the lube was moved. One of the other ones that I just fixed on that one that was having the grip frame problem, when I did that, there was like little streaks, and it wasn't even. It didn't move all the lube nice and evenly like that, so I replaced that O-ring, but that one looks pretty good. So we'll leave that.
Powering off.
Handy dandy barrel patch. Ooh, dirty. Yeah, it's nice and crusty. I don't know if you can see, but that's nice and dirty. Oh yeah. So, I'm going to replace a nice fresh bunna. Put in this third inner can. I find if you just get it close and then reach your finger in through the cutout and kind of squish it into that first spot, and then I use my top part of my finger to kind of push the rest of it into place. I could just start it there. There we go. Alright, now she's in there. Get me 2 new urethanes. The only drawback to pre-lubing is it makes it a lot more difficult to stick them in there. Just put a little bit of lube on the bolt. Yeah, that feels good. I use the bolt to lube those O-rings. Just put a tad, just enough to make it wet. So that's already feeling a lot better. Check the suction. Good suction. Just put a little bit on these outside O-rings. Just enough to make them wet. Notice there's no like caked grease or anything on there. So just nice and wet before I throw it back in there. Yeah, there's a lot of goop and crud in there. Use this puppy once again. I'm just swirling that around to get all that nastiness out of there. And then down here in the very end, you get all this crud build up. I like to just take the same patch, and I like to use the end of this barrel swab. And then run it down there in the end, and then just run it around that ridge. Oh yeah, nice and clean. Make sure that the breech O-ring's there. And then at the same time I clean the inside of this first. Get all that, ugh. The breech is looking good. Clean up that crud there. Alright. Sliding in a lot better.
Powering on. Welcome to the Luxe experience. Battery level 75%. Firing mode semi-automatic.
Alright, so that's good. Alright.
Vision off.
Alright, sounds like she's doing good. So now I'll just be going through and cleaning it up again, but just want to make sure that now our bolt goes back forward all the way. So that's quick down and dirty of pinpointing a eye malfunction that was really just dirty blocked eyes, and doing a quick lube and O-ring replacement and checking the O-ring fitment on the engine. So I'm going to finish cleaning the rest of this, take the regulator apart, check that, you know, make sure the O-rings in the regulator look good, the screen's not all gunked with crap, and just go through and clean the rest of it and get all this stuff off the grips and clean her up, and she'll be ready to go. Alright, thanks.